Jared from Ohio sent me this old putty knife a while back. I thought it would make a good back to basics project. My Back to Basics series is aimed at folks that are just getting into the hobby of cleaning up old tools. To keep things simple and accessible to everyone, the only power tool I use in these episodes is the very affordable Wen 2307 rotary tool. It's got a pretty flexible blade. I'm thinking about modifying the shape to make it more flexible. My plan is to remove some material where the blade meets the handle to make this section here thinner, to make the blade more flexible. I colored in what I want to remove with a permanent marker. I'm going to try to do this with a coarse grit sanding drum. We'll see how it goes. To check to make sure my modification is symmetric, I trace the blade on this piece of paper. Now I'm going to flip it over and set it back over the tracing. Yeah, I think that'll do. I think thinning this area up right here made it a little more flexible. I also squared up the tip. Now I'm going to go after the surface of the blade. For an experiment, I'm going to do one side of the blade with these scrubby wheels and the other side of the blade with these sanding discs. When I'm using my rotary tool in my right hand, this wheel is spinning this way. See the arrow? So when you're working on something, you want the spinning wheel to push it down into the table. That's why you see me working on the edge of this putty knife like this. If I worked on the edge of the putty knife like this, then that wheel is trying to lift the putty knife off the table. That's going to wear out the wheel, and you might end up wearing the putty knife. Here's the blade after the coarse and medium scrubby wheels. I'm going to go over it with this ultra fine abrasive pad now. the blade came out pretty good. Now remember, these old putty knives have carbon steel blades, and you're going to have pitting. A lot of times that pitting is so deep, and the blade is so thin, you really can't remove it. Alright, let's try these sanding discs. I've got an 80 grit disc. I've got my speed just a little bit over 3. Let's see how it goes. That speed seemed a little aggressive. You go down to there. Okay, now I have a 150 grit disc on. This is 240 grit. And 400 grit. Alright, here's the side of the blade done with the sanding discs. Now this side had a lot more pitting. That 400 grit disc left this side shinier. Let me go over this with that ultra fine abrasive pad, just to make it easier to compare apples to apples. So this is the side done with the sanding discs. And this is the side done with the scrubby wheels. I don't know, what do you think? Looks like there's some caulk, or maybe some paint, right where the blade meets the handle. This is a good spot for these bristle wheels. I work through the grits down to 400, and then I use this ultra fine pad again. This guard right here is made out of some kind of soft metal. I don't know if it's aluminum or some kind of zinc alloy. I'm going to sand it by hand. I've got a piece of sandpaper wrapped around a drill bit. And I picked a drill bit that seems to match that curve. think those curved areas came out pretty good. I'm going to sand the rest of the handle with 320. Whatever kind of wood this is, it's clogging my sandpaper. So I'm going to switch to some grade 0 fine steel wool. Let's see how this goes. The fine steel wool did a nice job on the handle, and it didn't clog up. To finish the wood handle, I'm going to apply paste wax, but instead of using a cloth, I'm going to use a piece of 4-0 superfine steel wool. That came out pretty nice, huh? It's really smooth. I guess while I have this piece of steel wool with the wax in it, I'll wax the blade. Okay, remember what this old putty knife looked like when I got it from Jared? Here it is now. I think this is rosewood. If you recognize it, let me know in the comments. I'm going to say the pitting in the blade gives it character. Here's some close-ups of the blade. This was a fun back to basics project. Thanks again to Jared from Ohio for sending it my way. I included Amazon links in the description for the products I used on this project. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Check out my other Back to Basics episodes.